Here is the WOA 2025 Fastpitch 101 Test Study Guide. This is intended for the umpires in the Tri-Cities Umpires Association in the state of Washington. And we will go through the questions, which doesn't look like they have changed at all from last year to this year. So we'll go through and take a look at each one. I will preface this review by saying that I'm going to give you my best opinion after looking at the rules and looking at the questions. If there is a misspelling or bad grammar in the question, that is the way it was presented in the study guide, and in my experience is the same way it is on the test. So any of those things are wholly with the WOA and the people who put the study guide and the test together. So I'm just going to go through and answer them. Here we go. Number one, prior to the contest, the official is required to ask the coach, does your team have a healthcare professional authorizing concussion management? And the answer is true. The official is required to ask that, and you need to get a yes or a no from the coach. You can't get a I hope so or I think so or we should have somebody here later. It's either a yes or a no, and that will dictate what happens if you have to remove a player for signs or symptoms of a concussion. So push the coaches for a yes or a no. The guidelines for that are found in the WIAA WOA concussion protocol document you can find an arbiter on the central hub. Number two, after being removed from the game for symptoms of a concussion, a player must be evaluated by proper medical personnel prior to returning to play. Who is responsible for making sure that the player has been properly evaluated? And that, again, is on the concussion management document that we have and also covered in the concussion management video. But that is the head coach. The head coach is required and responsible to make sure that the player has been properly evaluated. Number three, after being removed from the game for symptoms of a concussion, the player is approved to return to play. A few plays later, the player is once again showing signs of a potential concussion. What should be done? B, the player should be sent off again for evaluation. And this is covered in the concussion management video. And that's what we as umpires do and put it back into the hands of the coach to make sure that the player is taken care of. Question number four. The plate umpire always has a lead runner on tag ups. I believe when I took this test that I answered false, and that was incorrect. The answer, I think, was supposed to be true on the test. That was a year ago, so don't hold me to that. However, this is a very difficult question because you cannot just make a statement like that. If you look over the NFHS Mechanics Guide or the WOA Mechanics Guide, we see that the plate umpire has the lead runner in all situations except when there's a single runner on first or a single runner at second. And then the base is responsible for the tag up while the plate has the catch no catch in the outfield. However, if there are multiple runners on or is a mere single runner at third, then the plate umpire always has the lead runner in that case. So if by lead runner that question means that you have multiple runners and one of them is the lead runner, then yes, it is true. But there are situations where the plate umpire does not have the tag up on the lead runner when they're the only runner. So this is a weird question. I think it's a little flawed, but I believe that the answer on the test is true. This Parenthetical note is my my add-on, not in the test. It's only true and false. All right. Um, and then if you look in the WOA Mechanics Manual, pages 34 and 35, that's all. There you go. You will see this information is on there. However, I believe that the answer is true on the test. Question number 5. The base umpire should always remain outside the base path unless forced to go inside. Well, this is a very interesting question because the language in the mechanics manual does not say forced. There are certain situations in which the base umpire does come inside the baseline and officiates from within the diamond, looking out at the play, and there are some times when they stay out. So this is just a very general question, but I believe that the answer that I would give would be false. You don't always remain outside the base path. But, what does forced mean? What does all that mean? I don't know. All right. Question number 6. When calling a strike, the plate umpire should vocalize strike when down, and I'm going to assume that's down in their down position, and then raise and signal, and that is true. The verbal should come while you're in the squat, looking at the strike zone. By the way, when you pop up really, really quick, especially when you're popping up and saying it, you may have gotten a really good look at the pitch. However, it seems like you were popping up too soon and maybe didn't see it. And if I'm a coach and I don't like your call, then that's how I'm going to perceive that. Whether or not it's true doesn't matter. If you stay down and you're focused on that zone and you make the verbal down there and then come up, you look you look good, you look confident. Harder to argue with that. Question 7. The on deck circle must be occupied, and the offensive player may use either team's on deck circle. Well, that is false. First of all, it doesn't have to be occupied. You don't have to have somebody in the on deck circle, so they could be empty. If you have somebody in the on deck circle, in federation, by federation rules, they have to stay in the circle that is closest to their dugout. However, in USA softball, which a lot of the umpires work both in the area where I am in and the umpires that I train, in USA softball, it's possible to go to the other circle, but not so when using federation rules. Question number 8. A Team A's coach in the third base coaching box has an iPad. Using the iPad for which of the following is legal? And that is A, scorekeeping. That's the only reason they can have a technology device out on the field, is if they're using it to keep score. It can't be to communicate, it can't be to take video or photos or to record anything. It's merely to keep score. That kind of assumes that like maybe a coach is on Game Changer or something as their scorekeeping method. So they can't have it out there for any other reason. Now, this year we had added to the rule that a coach may use a communication device to the catcher while on defense, but that must take place entirely within from the dugout. Can't be out on the field. All right. Number 9. Which of the following is true about a foul tip? And that is C. By definition, the ball goes directly to the catcher's mitt and is caught by the catcher. That is a foul tip. Different than a foul ball in that when it's a foul ball, it becomes dead. When it is a foul tip, it remains a live ball, and runners that are on the bases may proceed at their own risk. Rule 224.2. Number 10, which of the following is not correct about interference? And that is A, that there must be contact. There does not have to be contact. The reference here was 232.1, but I would direct you to 231.1 because that is the actual interference rule. This is some other rule, I don't know what. First of all, contact is not mandated, and there are a lot of different rules that you can look up about when a runner is out, when they make contact, when they interfere. Interference isn't just contact, but it can be confusion, or it could be a number of things. So, interference doesn't have to be somebody running into a player. Number 11. What is true when a batter is intentional walked for appeal purposes? So again, awkward wording. When a batter is intentional walked, maybe intentionally walked, this is how it appears. All of the above is true. One, that the ball becomes dead. The player is considered to have had a time at bat, and the appeal for an intentional walk. No pitches will be thrown, however, it will be considered the same as a pitch being thrown, and that is, of course, for a whole lot of other rules, like when the time to offer an appeal or make an appeal ends. It ends at the next pitch when it's thrown. Well, if a intentional walk is asked for, then that's the same as a pitch being thrown. So, D, all of the above. And I will, while I'm thinking about it, mention that if you get this question on the test, the answers may be shuffled around. So be sure you're looking not just for the letter, but you're looking for the actual answer wherever it goes. Question Rule 265 defines a walk and an intentional walk, but 811C, effect number 2, it gives you the information about time at bat and pitch being thrown and all that. Number 12. Umpires may inspect player equipment. This is true. What is important to note is that the umpire is not required to inspect player equipment, but certainly if an umpire has some reason to believe that the equipment may not be safe and or legal, an umpire may inspect player equipment. Question 13. After walking 2 consecutive batters, third baseman calls timeout to talk to the pitcher. The umpire should note this as a charged conference, and that is false. Under the definition of a charged conference, it does include the language that says it must be a coach or a coach's designee. Therefore, it's some assistant coach or other personnel in the dugout that confers with the player. When 2 players confer, it is a timeout and it is a conference of sorts, but it's not a charged conference of which there are a limited number. Question 14. Which of the following is true about charged conferences? That is going to be, in this case, choice D. A team may only use 1 offensive charged conference in any 1 inning. And that's the limit to their offensive conferences, charged conferences, is that they get 1 per offensive inning. A is not true because while there are 3 defensive charge conferences, there's 1 offensive conference per inning, so up to 7 charge conferences can happen in a game. More if you go into extra innings. B is not correct because a team may not use 2 defensive charge conferences in 1 inning. They can use all of their charge conferences in 1 inning. There's no limit on how many per inning, but offensive there is just 1 per. And in an extra inning game, defensive charge conferences are cumulative. They are not. So if you play multiple extra innings, there's 1 charge conference allowed defensively in each of those innings. You don't get to save them up and get three in the third extra inning. All right. Question 15. Before the game has started, who determines if the field is playable? And that is B, the home coach. Now, the umpires determine after the game has started. But before the game has started, it is the home coach who will make that designation. Question 16. After the start of a game, it is a forfeit if either team is unable to field 9 players. That is false. While they must have 9 to start the game, they can finish shorthanded with as few as 8. So it is possible for them to lose one player, take an out whenever that player's at bat comes, and still continue the game. It's called the shorthanded rule. Number 17, in fast pitch, when does the pitch start? And that is C, when the hands separate. The This is important because there are several things that you would enforce on pitchers, but don't become enforceable until the pitch has started, which means the hands must come apart. So it is important to know when that happens. Probably the most notable is while the hands are together and a pitcher takes their place on the pitching plate, if they want to step off the pitching plate, step back and restart, they can do that as long as their hands have not come apart to begin the pitch. So it's very important that you know when that happens and when you enforce the various pitching rules. But when the hands separate, that's when it begins. 18. How many warm-up pitches does the pitcher get in her allotted time between innings? And the number of pitches is 5, and it's 5 for every half inning. However, that is not the only limit. The limit is 1 minute or 5 pitches. And a pitcher can realistically get in 5 pitches in that 1 minute, but they would have to hustle on out and make sure that happens. I will say that it is possible for a pitcher to get more than 5 if it is the umpire who is delaying the start of the inning. For instance, if an umpire has gotten several substitutions from one coach and now is going over to the other bench and making sure that that coach has all the substitutions, the pitcher may throw extra pitches while the umpire is taking care of that stuff. But normally, if you're ready to start the game, you get 5. Number 19, the pitcher deliberately rolls the ball to the catcher to prevent the hitter from hitting it. In fast pitch, so the rule for slow pitch is 6-4-7, but the rule for fast pitch is 6-2-1, and this is illegal. They cannot do that. It's considered an illegal pitch. 20, the batter swings at a pitch and is struck on the hand with the ball. The ball rolls into fair territory. What do you have? Well, sometimes we say as umpires and coaches will say, some players will say that when they're swinging that the hand is part of the bat, and that is not true. It's not ever true. So they were swinging at the ball, but the ball hit them in the hand. That is a hit batter, and that is a dead ball. However, because they were swinging at the pitch, it is a strike on the batter, and the batter stays at bat. If it was a third strike, then that batter is out. So it is a dead ball hit by the pitch, but not a hit by the pitch and take your base. It's a strike. Question 21, runner R1 is on second with 2 outs. Batter number 2 is a left-handed batter, squares off and bunts the ball. While still in the batter's box and the bat is still in the batter's hands, the ball comes back up and hits the bat again. What do you have? The answer is C. It is a dead ball immediately and is considered a foul ball unless in the umpire's judgment, the hit was intentional. And that is exactly how the rule reads. But as long as they're still in the batter's box and the bat's still in their hands, even two hits, it's just a dead ball, foul ball. Regardless of whether, by the way, it's in foul territory, fair territory, doesn't matter. Question 22. A damaged bat is an illegal bat. Well, that is false. An illegal bat has a pretty severe penalty. If somebody brings an illegal bat into the batter's box, then there's some severe penalties that are associated with that. A damaged bat is just unallowable. It's not illegal. You wouldn't enforce those penalties, but you wouldn't allow a player to use a damaged bat. You would remove it from play. So that's an important distinction. 23. What is the status of the ball during an intentional walk? By rule, an intentional walk is during a dead ball, which means that you can't have runners advancing at their own risk. They only advance if they are forced ahead by the batter runner taking first. Question 24. A pitched ball is in the strike zone and it hits the batter, which means the batter's in the strike zone. So what is the ruling? It is C. First of all, the batter is charged with a strike because the pitch was in the strike zone. And because a player was hit, the ball is dead. However, they don't get to take their base. They stay at bat if they unless they have three strikes. If they have three strikes, or if that is a third strike, then they're out. So a player cannot lean into the zone and prevent the ball from entering the zone. If the ball is going to be a strike and they're hit, it's just dead ball, but it is a strike on the batter, and they remain at bat. By the way, Rule 812 does not address that. It is 721G. And last question in the top of the first inning, Team A uses A1 as a courtesy runner for the pitcher. In the sixth inning, Team A wants to use A1 as a courtesy runner for the catcher. This is illegal because while you can have courtesy runners for both pitchers and catchers, you can't have the same courtesy runner run for both. In other words, as soon as A1 ran as a courtesy runner for a pitcher, A1 can only run as a courtesy runner for pitcher, any pitcher, but it must be a pitcher only, not the catcher, for the remainder of the game. And that's Rule 891. So that is the Umpiring 101 Test Study Guide for 2025. And that is for my umpires in the Tri-Cities Umpires Association. So there you have it. And we'll see you in training.